Hello and welcome. Hopefully you've just come from the Thomas Cup video, but maybe you've jumped on this video first. My name is Ben Beckman, and this is another episode of Beckman's Breakdown, the show where I take a look at Super 750s and Super 1000s on the VF World Tour, as well as all the majors and the team events. And it's the team events that brings me here today, because this week we have the Thomas and Uber Cup finals. Like I said, I've already just done a video on the Thomas Cup. So now is the time for the ladies, the Uber Cup. Just like I did for my Thomas Cup, I'm going to go through each of the groups, talk about each team. Well, not each team, most of the teams. I'll give my thoughts on the groups as a whole, on the players and the teams, some predictions for the groups, and then at the end, I'll give any other thoughts as well as my dark horse for the tournament. So, Group A, China, India, Denmark, and Ukraine. Starting with China, they have naturally a very insanely strong team, and for me they're the clear favourites alongside Korea. This China team probably the only team with a full world-class lineup from top to bottom. We're talking like all players have been like top 10, if not higher, top 5 in the world at some point. However, there are a few doubts, so let me go through those. First of all, we have Chen Yufei, their second singles player, former Olympic champion. She withdrew from the Asia Championships. Not entirely sure why, whether it's an injury or whatever, who knows. If, again, like I did with the Thomas Cup, anything where I'm not sure, if you do know or you have credible information, get it down in the comments. In their women's doubles, their top pair, the number ones in the world, Liu Shengshu and Tan Ning, withdrew in the final of the women's doubles. Liu Shengshu's right knee, I believe, was heavily taped up. But they were dominant up until that final. So whether it was just like it was giving them a bit of grief, they were up against their own pair, and because they played Lee and Yuo, who were the third pair. Maybe they just felt, what's the point? I don't know whether it's serious or it was just cautionary. I don't know. It would be a huge blow if both those players, Chen Yufei in the singles and Liu and Tan in doubles, are not able to play. For me, even more so, I think, even though she's not number one, is Chen Yufei. And the reason I say that is my next doubt is over Han Yue, their third player. Been as high as 3 or 4 in the world, but she really hasn't been performing. Delivering very good results. And beyond that, say Chen Yufei can't play, Han Yue needs to be 2. And then at 3, you have Zhu Wenjing. She played the Asia Team Championships. She's won the Ruqing China Masters this year, but she's only just come out of the juniors. She was the former world junior champion in 2024. Without Chen Yufei, with Chen Yufei, insanely strong. And I think Han Yue and or Zhu would do pretty well for third singles. But if Chen Yufei is injured to the point where she can't play much and they need to bump those teams up, suddenly there's certainly chances. And I think their hot rivals, Korea, who also have good second, third, but not super high in comparison to their top, suddenly those matches become very, very open and interesting. I think, like I said, Liu and Tan, Liu Shengshu injury. Zhang and Jia lost to Rose and Setien Ingram from Indonesia in the second round of the Asia Championships, and still trying to refine the good form they had kind of in the second, third part of last year. So they're minor doubts in a way. They could be more major if the injuries are pretty bad, but they are doubts enough. Although you're never quite sure what the Chinese are prioritizing. Maybe their top players are all fully focused on the Uber Cup, where they are aiming to be crowned for a 17th time. Only once China, since they played since 1982, they've not reached the final. And even if some of those players can't, they would obviously still have a team capable of doing that. For India, I think they have some really solid players, especially in their women's singles, led by the experienced Sindhu. So PV Sindhu, a former world champion, Olympic silver medalist. So they have PV Sindhu in single. Then you have the young Unnati Huda, who's 18. Then you have 17-year-old Tanvi Sharma. And then you have Devika Shihag, who's 21 as well. So they have below Sindhu 3 very new, young, but good players looking to get experience. In their doubles, they have Jolly and Teresa, who are always dangerous at first women's doubles, and they seem to bring out the bag when it comes to team events. But their ranking is 30 at the moment. They have been as high as 9. I know Gayatri has been struggling with injury issues over the last few years, but they're still a strong pair. Now, India, for me, certainly capable of coming through the group stages, but they have a death match in this one, and that's with Denmark. But I'll get to India versus Denmark. I think India, obviously, one eye, it seems, on the future. The last thing I'll say about India is that they bring in Tanisha Crasto, who's their top mixed pair, who, like I've said, if you watch the Thomas Cup one already, having players like that gives options to maybe create some scratch pairings and to just give options maybe in the second doubles, because I can see India playing pretty much Gopi Chan and Jolly whenever they can at first doubles, and then that second doubles maybe we'll see some mix and matching. Be interesting to see how they play their singles though. You could see Sindhu playing most of them because you want experience to lead the gate, and then who they pick out of the next three. And they're all similar and have different styles against different players, so I think it might come down to who they think styles will match up. Next is the host nation, Denmark. A bit like their male counterparts, they were somewhat surprised in the final of the European Women's Team Championships where they lost to Bulgaria. And in that match, it was Lena Kleisfeldt who was leading the team, and she lost to Kalyana Naubantova. And then Mia Blichfeld lost to Stephanie Stoeva, who actually, if you probably know, is a doubles player, but was also a good junior singles player and has come back. But since then, I felt that Kleisfeldt reached the European final and played pretty well, although it was an error-prone final versus Gilmore. Mia Blichfeld still returning from injuries. She did bronze in the European Championships, which is positive, but she has posted that she's been really struggling. But she is keen to do well at the Uber Cup. Lena Kristoffersen, who will have to lead the team, question mark against her. Can she handle that pressure? She crumbled a little bit in the European Championships, where she lost to the eventual winner, Kirsty Gilmore, even though she had a 14-6 lead in the third game. So their singles lineup is strong. It's good. They got... but actually, having a look at it, do they actually even have any backup players in their singles? I think they only have those three. Like you can imagine, there's a few doubts laid at their feet. Their women's doubles is a young team, but very good team. And I think a little bit like India, they've actually included two mixed players, Christine Busch and Alexandra Boe, which I think give them options. Although I was looking at their results from the European women's teams, and they had Alexandra Boe in that team, yet they didn't ever pick her. Not quite sure why, but I did find it a little bit surprising. And rounding out the group is Ukraine, who's going to be making their debut at the Uber Cup, because they got their first ever bronze medal at the European Women's Team Championships. And actually that was backed up nicely by Polina Barova and Kantemeyer, who won the first ever individual European medal for Ukraine in the women's doubles. Be a great experience for their team, but in all honesty, they're probably going to come last in the group. So I think predictions on this group: China are going to come through unscathed. Possibly we could see them having 3 straight 5-0 wins. I don't think you can underestimate Ukraine, but I do believe they will come last in the group. It's Denmark versus India that's the real crunch match. Denmark didn't play, like I said, Alexandra Boe in the European women's teams, but maybe that'll change. Personally, I think the 2 doubles matches will likely be split. I think India will win the first and Denmark the second. And then I think where it's going to really be decided is in the singles. Just having to pause the video very quickly here, guys, because I've just realised I made a bit of a mistake, and that is in regards to the women's singles order for Denmark. I had Lena Kristoffersen as 1 because she was the number 1 seed at the European Championships. I remember seeing a post about Badminton Europe saying she's the number 1 in Europe, but I checked the world rankings just now to double check, and Mia Blichfeld is higher ranked. So according to world rankings, Mia Blichfeld will be 1, and that does change what I'm going to say, hence why I've paused the video and added this in. With Mia being 1, Sindhu is the clear favourite. She's got a 6-1 head-to-head, won the last 3 matches, and Mia Blichfeld's been struggling with knee injuries. She did play the Europeans, got bronze. It was a very brave medal, but I think based on everything, Sindhu must get that win. 1-0 India. Second match, women's doubles, I have said that I think India are the favoured pair, although not by much. But maybe with the momentum from Sindhu, that can give them the advantage. If it's 2-0, then that puts a lot of pressure on Denmark. But I think Denmark will be the favourites in the second women's doubles. And when it comes to those remaining 2 women's singles, obviously huge amounts of pressure. It'll be quite interesting to see how Kristoffersen handles it if Denmark are 2-0 down. She couldn't quite handle the pressure at the European Championships, throwing a 14-6 lead in the third against Kirsty Gilmore in the quarter-finals. But the thing that's on the side of the Danish women's singles players is experience. Kalina has quite a bit. The other Lena, Kleisfeld, has an absolute bucket load of experience, whereas the 3 players that could potentially play for India, Devika, Unati, and Tanvi, this will all be their Uber Cup debut. So for me, it's still a huge crunch match. I'm not sure. I can't remember what I said in terms of predictions. I think I might have said India squeaked it, but it's an absolute close match. I think I actually might have turned it over to you. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly hear, because there's no way around what I'd said. And because the order changed, it completely changed exactly everything I said. Because as you know, first match, if that changes how I see the rest of the match. So just going to chuck this in there. Anyway, back to the video. I think this is the match of the group stages in the Uber Cup. Really, this is the only real group match where I think we'll have a fight for who might take that second spot in the team. I think all the other groups are pretty straightforward. And underneath that, I've written, give this even more thought, and then I haven't actually given it much more thought. I might pan this one over like I did with the Thomas Cup video with also the group with Denmark in, over who do you think is going to come through that one. I have a lot of Indian followers and they like to comment, so India in the comment section are probably going to get the majority. But what about for you guys that are impartial? Maybe I'll come back to that one if I remember. Group B, Japan and Malaysia, so very similar, exactly the same, as the Thomas Cup. Those 2 teams are facing each other. And then you have Turkey and South Africa. So Japan, as expected, it's a solid lineup. I think it isn't their strongest ever. Obviously, they're former champions. I'm maybe a little bit surprised that Okuhara hasn't been asked to play. They've gone for Yamaguchi, Miyazaki, Yuriko Gunji, and Manami Suitsu. I don't know why Okuhara's not picked. I know she's not passed she passed the national team. Is she independent? Is that a factor? I don't know. Again, do fill me in. But I think Okuhara would have been really good to have because she obviously experienced, and also she's playing well recently. She won the Orleans Masters. I thought she played some brilliant badminton there. She's been having some great results. Seems to be getting her injury issues under control. And I think just having her as an option for third singles, really good. Riko Gunji is good, but Okuhara probably better and experience is great. Maybe Japan, I don't know why this is, but maybe Japan are looking a little bit to the future in regards to that. In women's doubles, I'm not too surprised with the selections. Some might argue why Igarashi and Shida, they've both been struggling as a pair, but maybe they've been selected for potential scratch pairings. We've seen in the past Japan have sometimes done pretty well with mix and matching their pairs. I can remember some of the best matches I've ever seen at a Thomas Cup. I think I remember the one in Aarhus when they played against Japan. I can't remember who played, but it was against Chen and Jar. I think it was Fukushima. It might be Fukushima and Matsumoto, actually a pair now, but it was an absolute epic match. I think Arisa Igarashi could play pretty well with Nakanishi. She does play well with left-handers, so maybe they've picked them as potential switches. Another argument is maybe they could have selected Miyu Takahashi. She's been really impressive there. She got to the final, the Inner Masters with Igarashi, and she won the Orleans Masters with someone else. But again, I'm not too sure why. I know that obviously Japan had their A and B team, and maybe they're only picking from 18 players, and whatever, that might be a reason why. I don't know. But there's certainly a few selections that I think some people might go, oh, maybe they should have picked this, or maybe they could have picked that. So if there was no restrictions, then I would be quite interested to know your thoughts on that. For Malaysia, for me, obviously you've got Go Jin Wei, who's their 4th player on the ranking list, so she'll probably likely play third singles, and I think that's a big confidence boost. Not too dissimilar to Lee Zijia and their men's teams. Not quite the same levels, because Go Jin Wei hasn't quite reached the heights of Lee Zijia, but she's a fantastic fighter, very good player. On her day, she is their best player by far. So having her at third will be quite useful. She reached the final of the Thailand Masters earlier this year, but unfortunately did have to withdraw in the final. I quite like Wong Ling Ching. I've seen a bit of her. She's beaten Cho Cha Wong this year. And then you got Letsahana, who reached the semi-finals of the Indonesia Masters, beat two good players from Taipei and Michelle Lee. So not like superstars in the women's singles, but players that are capable of winning. Obviously, I wrote here in my notes that Pearly and Tina are the superstars of the team, but literally this morning, as I was setting up, I saw the confirmation that Pearly Tan is no longer travelling to Denmark because of a back injury. And in all honesty, that really puts a dampener into their team, because obviously they'd be heavily relying on Pearly and Tina delivering at least 1 point for them. And then the way I saw the Malaysian team was Pearly and Tina will try to deliver as many wins as they can. There's a few teams like China and Korea and Japan where they would struggle a bit to win that one, but they personally can. And then Go Jin Wei at third, and then that's 2 matches, and then they got to try to get one else somewhere. But we'll see, without Pearly Tan, that really does put a bit of a spanner in the works. I still think that they potentially, I still think they're going to come through the group, although it does make the match against Turkey quite an interesting one, because Turkey haven't got half a bad team. A little like Ukraine, they can't be slept on. In fact, I think they're a little stronger than Ukraine, in all honesty. We've got Neslihan Arin, who's been a multiple-time European medalist, has had some wins over some top stars. Very, very good. You've got Ozgur Bayrak, who's making a bit of a comeback, very experienced. I watched her a lot at the European Championships when I was doing some commentary. She could do some things against the second players from Malaysia. And she could definitely give a little run around for Miyazaki, that's for sure. And then in the women's doubles, they've got Ursiten and Inchi, who got to the final of the European Championships. They've got a good team. I still think Japan, is way too strong for them generally, but Malaysia without Pearly Tan, I still think they're going to be too strong, Malaysia. But obviously it does even it a bit. But the way I see it, it's still Japan and Malaysia coming through this group, identical to the men, but I don't think this match is going to be quite as even. I see Japan as the heavy favourites, especially now that Pearly Tan isn't travelling. I think Turkey can certainly compete in a few matches. And rounding out that group is South Africa. I don't know all too much about them. But again, I think it's going to be the order as in the way the group's written. So Japan 1, Malaysia 2, Turkey 3, South Africa 4. Group C, you've got Chinese Taipei, Indonesia, Canada, and Australia. Chinese Taipei, for me, like when I saw the list of names, I didn't know all too many. I knew their top doubles pair, Se Pei Shan and Hung En-su, because they qualified for the World Tour Finals. I've heard of names, especially their 5th women's singles player. They've taken 5, Weng Chi-shu, who's 45 in the world, but has been as high as 16. But when I looked a little closer at their current rankings, like lots of good players, no real superstars. Like I said, if I sat here and listed out the names, obviously some of you are going to know them, but a lot of them you'll be like, is that her or her? There's no one that you kind of like go, they're really standing out on the world scene of consistently delivering these kind of results. But plenty of experience and just plenty of options as well, especially in the women's singles. Like I said, they got 5. And they might try to use that in this group. I think I've written something about that a little bit for it later. But yeah, no, a decent team. For Indonesia, for me, it's always going to be a shame they don't have a fit Tung Jung. She's still struggling with illness. And it's kind of a shame they don't even have a fit or well-playing Rahayu, the former Olympic champion. With both those two in the team and playing well, it's a really dangerous team. A team definitely capable of getting a second consecutive Uber Cup final. They did reach the final last time, but still good. And they will have a lot of confidence from the recent Asian Championships, especially in the women's doubles. You had Ramadhanti and Pratui reach the semis, and they defeated Baekar and Lee So-hee, and Iwanaga and Nakanishi en route. And then Rose and Setien Ingram defeated Jai Fan and Shang Shushan. I watched that match this morning, actually, and I was really impressed with Febi Setien Ingram. She looked like she's got herself much fitter, looks a bit lighter, a bit trimmer on court, just looks stronger. Always had fantastic skills, but now just looks a little bit more athletic on the court. It's a strong team, and I actually quite like the fact they got Esther Widoyo, Chico's sister. I can remember her pulling out some pretty big wins, if I'm remembering correctly, last time. Can she do the same? Rounding out the group is Canada and Australia. I think, for me, what have I written here? I think it will be... Canada are pretty strong, actually. They're not too bad. Obviously led by Michelle Lee, who's probably capable of delivering wins across the board. And they got some other good players. They got Crystal Lai and Jackie Dent. Josephine Wu, who's a mixed player. She's in there. Obviously for Australia, you've got Gronya Somerville and Angela Yu that are pretty strong as well. But I think generally speaking, like pretty much all these groups, there's a top 2 teams and a bottom 2 teams. And here I think it is Indonesia and Chinese Taipei and Canada and Australia. So the battle for the top 2 spots, Indonesia and Taipei. I've had here Indonesia probably favourites because they're better in both women's doubles and favourite probably in the first singles. So that's 3 matches. But I've written here a big question mark, and this is going to sound a bit out there. Do Taipei put in their 3rd women's singles player, Huang Yushun, against Wardani? And there's 2 reasons for that. One is it's 1-1 in the head-to-head between these 2 players, with the Taipei player actually beating Wardani this year in Indonesia. And I think this could still work because, like I said, Taipei have 5 players, so they can play their 3rd, 4th and 5th. And their 5th player is Wen Qishu, who has been as high as 16, which would, if she was at that ranking, would actually make her... would actually make her the 2nd highest ranked player for Taipei. So she's obviously very experienced and good. So the fact that even if you put the 3rd player at top, who's 1-1 and has beaten Indonesia's top 1, it might mean that number 4 is the 4th ranked Taipei player might struggle against Indonesia's whoever they play. Although Indonesia's 2nd and 3rd ranked players, the ones that are above Esther, I haven't heard all too much. So there's still chances. But then at 3rd, you can still put in a very experienced player. And possibly that gives Taipei the advantage across all 3 singles. So I think that would be quite an interesting decision, whether Taipei go that or they just go for a standard. They might still put their 1, 2, and then they might still put their 5th player at 3rd. I don't know how they're going to play it, but it's something that I think their coaches should go for. But I still would probably favour Indonesia over Taipei in general. So I think Indonesia 1, Taipei 2. In the battle for 3rd and 4th, I think it's going to be a little bit tighter than their male counterpart match, but I think Canada will still take the win. I think they've got almost a definite win in the first women's singles. The first women's doubles, pretty even. It's their first meeting. I don't know much about the Australian players, and I've heard a few of the Canadians a bit more. And then you've got, I think, Wen Yuzhang, top 50 or 60, who's the 2nd player for Canada. So, yeah, I think it would go Canada and then Australia. Group D, the last group, you've got Korea, the number 2 seeds, and one of the heavy favourites. You've got Thailand, Bulgaria, and Spain. So again, you've got probably a battle of Asia for 1st and 2nd, and a battle of Europe for 3rd and 4th. Although I think Bulgaria, they are the European champions. They are a strong team as well. There's, like I said, a few of these teams which I don't think you can necessarily sleep on. For Korea, obviously they got Eun Seong, enough said. This team are really good at delivering when it comes to team events. I think elsewhere in the team, elsewhere for their singles, you got Sim Yoo-jin and Kim Ga-yeon. Kim Ga-yeon defeated Ratchnuk, who is, the Asian Championships, who is Thailand's top player. But I know that Ratchnuk has been injured and isn't fully fit. But Kim Ga-yeon I've seen deliver some pretty decent wins and performances at team events in the past. And Sim Yoo-jin, obviously, she reached the semi-finals of the Asian Championships recently, which gives them a huge boost, defeating Han Yue and Okuhara en route. And let's not forget that she was the one that won the deciding 3rd match for Korea when they won it in 2022. Now, so pretty much got the same singles lineup, actually. So the fact that, Sim Yoo-jin, someone I feel hasn't pushed on as much as she could have, but the fact that she's playing well recently and what she's done in the past, that should definitely give the team a little bit more faith. When it comes to their women's doubles, there's one thing or two. There's one minor one. I guess the minor one would be that Baek Hana and Lee So-hee lost early in the Asia Championships. But again, like I've said to a few times when it comes to this, it's always difficult to know whether, whilst the Asia Championships is obviously a big tournament, it's the equivalent of a Super 1000 actually, you're never quite sure if, with the Thomas Uber Cup so close after, whether teams or players, especially the big players, are focusing a little bit more further down the line. But regardless, a big blow for Korea is they don't have Kong Hee-young. So the new Kim and Kong, Kim Hee-jong's partner, Kim Hee-jong is in the team, but Kong Hee-young is injured and not named in the team. But the rest of their players, Jung Young-yeon, very experienced Olympic silver medalist in mixed, and still very good in both. You've got Lee Yun-woo. I'm pretty sure Jung and Lee have been doing well, and you've got Lee So-jin. It is a blow for their second women's doubles pair, but a bit like their men's team, they got so many good players that can probably make any sort of scratch pairing and still deliver wins at second women's doubles. Maybe not against pairs like a team like China, or even against Japan and Indonesia, who have more set pairs for their top ones. But for Thailand, again, there's a few doubts running through their team. There's fitness doubts over Ratchnuk, which does put a huge damper on their squad and limits their options. You have got Pompey and Supanida, who can step up. But what's an interesting choice for their team is they've gone for experience over youth in terms of their fourth pick, and they've gone for Busanan Onpanrumpon. She does bring lots of experience. She was critical in Thailand reaching the final when they held it on home soil in 2018. But I'm a little surprised that they didn't pick Pitchamon Opatnutputh. She needs the exposure, and she's also shown great badminton in 2026. Huge improvements as well, with some big wins. And I'm just quite surprised that she wasn't listed on the name of players. I think she could have been a great potential third singles player. I think she's probably a better choice, in all honesty, than Busanan. And if Thailand... Busanan's still good, but I think they should have used Pitchron. Not only I think is she better at the moment, but also one eye on the future as well. I think it's a misstep by the selectors. Maybe there's a reason why, but if there isn't, then I think personally that's not the best decision by the Thai coaches. In the women's doubles, they have three mixed players. They've got Supasara, Janicha, and Ornicha. They're all good, and they obviously give Thailand options. And we know in the past that sometimes they've been pretty good at creating their own scratch pairings. And I guess the Uber Cup is kind of known for that. But they haven't really got any set pairs, in all honesty, in their team. They've got Benyapa Imsad, and I'm pretty sure I've heard she's reformed a partnership with her sister Nuntakan, but Nuntakan isn't in the team. That would have brought some stability, even if they haven't played all too much. Again, there's a few question marks as to why. I don't profess to know everything about badminton. There might be reasons for this, but for me, when I look at the Thai women's team, there's a lot of good individual doubles players, but not many pairs. But you never know; they might be able to kind of bring one. They might be able to kind of create one in the moment. I still think, though, they should get through the group stages. Although I must admit, the next team, Bulgaria, could pose a threat. So let's talk about Bulgaria very quickly. They're the European champions. I think, like the other European teams, you can't sleep on them. Now Bantova, who's their first women's singles player, shown from when she won that huge match against Lena Klagesfeld at the European Women's Team Championship final, that she's ready to step up. Although obviously she will find it hard against An Seong and whoever Thailand field. Although actually against Thailand, if they rest Ratchanuk against Pompey's favourite, but don't write off now. Now Bantova will go for that. It could be quite an interesting match if you get the chance to watch it. Stoeva sisters, been around forever, won their 5th European title. And I think against Thailand, as I just said, don't really have a doubles pair. They could definitely deliver points. And I think all of these little things could add up and develop pressure. And I think the one other thing for Bulgaria, the only thing, again, a question mark for Bulgaria, is that they'll probably have to double up Stephanie Stoeva She did that a lot throughout the European women's because she's come back to singles, being their second singles player, and she's much better than anyone else. So, in terms of others, obviously other than now Bantova, so maybe, will that be too much for her to deliver? And would that singles take away from the doubles potentially where they need her to go? Yeah, there's a lot of question marks again whether they will do that. As for the last team, Spain, they only qualified because France gave up their spot. They're a decent team, but they lack depth and no real top end strength. I know it's a big maybe, but Marin had been fit and been willing to play and hadn't retired again. But maybe with Marin, this team could impose some pressure, but I don't really think now. So, like I said at the top, it's going to be versus between Korea and Thailand pretty much, and then you have the Battle of Europe. But I do think, and I've written here, Thailand versus Bulgaria could produce some good close matches. Now the teams have been released. In terms of who comes through, I think Korea 1, Thailand 2. I don't really need to go through why I think that. I think, Korea are just strength in doubles, plus An Se-young, no good. And then, Kim Ga-eun and Sim Yoo-jin will always have chances, and the pressure on the Thai players just a little bit too much. So, bigger questions about the Uber Cup, observations. Obviously, always when it comes to the Uber Cup, for me, outside of China, Japan, and Korea, who can win the bronze? Tends to be those three plus one other team getting the bronze. I think realistically and based on the draw, it's going to be between Thailand and Indonesia. And personally, I'd probably likely fancy Indonesia a bit more because they've avoided those three teams in the group stages. So should come top of their group, avoid those three teams in the quarters, and obviously then they're in the medal rounds. And once you're that, you only need to produce a great performance on one day. So they'll get an easier knockout draw. Personally, I would love to see an Indonesia versus Thailand quarterfinal. Really, the top two teams are Korea and China, and a lot of people are already kind of excited at the thought of An Se-young versus Wang Ziyi, Bacon Lee versus Lu and Tan. These big crunch matches, whilst both teams do have some question marks, overall their strength is insanely solid, and it's always about overall strength. We can always have teams that can suddenly spring three matches, and that's what we love to see. But generally speaking, I think when you look at a preview, it's always about generally having strength throughout every single match. Both have question marks, but overall strength very solid. Dark horse, I've actually gone for Indonesia. That's probably can you actually have them as dark horse? They did get the silver last time. But I think personally, when it comes to the Uber Cup, you can pick anyone outside of those top three nations. The reasons why: doubles players coming in on a high from the Asia Championships. No Tungjung is a blow, but Wadani is solid throughout. Although he's never beaten Korea or China's top players. They stunned us last time, and I think, like I said, the fact they've avoided the top three teams in the groups gives them a much better chance. And I think the fact that the doubles players, like I said, coming in confident and they're all good and they've got options. They haven't just got two pairs, they've got three. I think that can lift some weight and take some pressure off their women's singles to strike. But last thing I'll say is they don't have an easy task against Taipei. A team of players that don't shine outright but are solid top to bottom. I think Uber Cup, the last thing I'll say is Uber Cup really probably won't heat up too much until we get out of the knockout stages. I think that's not to say we can't have some decent group matches, but it's hard to see anyone other than the favourites beyond that. The Asian teams making the knockout stages. I already said the one match that I think is really most exciting in terms of uncertainty is Denmark versus India, because there's an actual spot on the line, not just a position in the group. And I said I'd come back to that one, didn't I? Oh, wow. Again, I'm just going to turn that one over to you guys. You give me your thoughts on that one. And with that, it was a little shorter, this one. Just a little less to talk about when it comes to Uber Cup. It's a little bit more set in stone. The Thomas Cup, there's a little bit more questions and potential things going on. And if you haven't watched that one already, because for whatever reason, then somewhere on this screen, I'll play it. It'll probably come up at the end of the video. So you can click on that and watch that one next. If you've watched both now, then thanks for watching both, and thanks for watching this video. I'll probably put another video up that you can watch and enjoy. All that's left for me to say is leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. And I will see everyone at the Thomas Newber Cup, because I will be travelling there, because I'm going to be doing the commentating. I'll be on court 2. I'm not sure which match each day, but court 2, right from day 1 up to the semi-finals. Obviously, finals is up to Gin and Steen. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to watching as many of these matches. So if you're there, then maybe we can, if you see me around, say hello. If not, then you can listen to me there. But I will be delivering, obviously, a Beckman's breakdown following it. And again, there'll probably be separate videos, because I can imagine there's going to be even more to talk about. So thanks for watching, everyone. Like I said, if you haven't watched Thomas Cup video, it's going to come up somewhere around here. Click on that if you haven't. If you have, then watch something else. Or if you're just going to go out your day, go chill out. All right. Until next time, everyone. See you later.